Also yesterday, Majority Leader Schumer warned Republicans that very soon Democrats will be blowing up the filibuster. Schumer says if Republicans don't get on board with voting rights legislation, then Democrats will get rid of the filibuster.
The Senate must advance legislation to protect our democracy and safeguard the right to vote. Over the coming weeks, the Senate will thus consider legislation we can pass to achieve this goal. Democrats for months have tried to bring Republicans to the table, but every single time, Republicans used the rules of the Senate to prevent even a debate. Voting rights in the past was a bipartisan issue. How quickly they forget. Republican presidents, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, supported voting rights. When voting rights extensions came up in this body in the past, they passed by large majorities, bipartisan. The resistance we see from modern-day Republicans is a beast of an entirely different nature. Maybe some of them are scared of Trump, but too many of them see this as a way to win advantage, to get their hard-right views enacted, even though the public doesn't support them, by jaundicing our election process and putting barriers in the way of particular people, not all people, of voting, people of color, poor people, people who live in big cities, young people, handicapped people, elderly people. As I said in my dear colleague earlier this week, if Republicans continue to hijack the rules of the chamber to prevent action on something as critical as protecting our democracy, then the Senate will debate and consider changes to the rules on or before January 17th, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Over the course of history, Mr. President, the Senate has debated voting rights many times and done what was necessary to take action. But rarely did our predecessors face the sort of malice that now confronts our democracy from within. And one final point, the arguments from the other side, they're saying federalize the elections. That's in the Constitution, that federal elections can be determined by federal legislation. That's what some of our great post-Civil War amendments were all about. That's what the history of voting rights legislation has been about. When state legislatures, for reasons often bigoted and racist, said people couldn't vote for one reason or another or stopped them from voting, the Congress stepped in. That's nothing new. It's unbelievable the arguments they come up with. Just totally false.
In response to Schumer's threats, the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell went after Schumer, saying that he was hell-bent on breaking the Senate.
Well, welcome back, everyone. It appears as if the Majority Leader is hell-bent to try to break the Senate. His argument is that somehow state legislatures across the country are busily at work trying to make it more difficult for people to vote. Of course, that's not happening anywhere in America. 94% of Americans believe it's easy to vote. We had a record turnout last year, the biggest turnout since 1900. It's already against the law to prevent people from voting based upon race. The Voting Rights Act is still intact. So it's appropriate to ask the question, what's going on here? Well, there's been a lot of talk about big lies. Well, the big lie on the other side is that state legislatures controlled by Republicans are busily at work trying to make it difficult for people to vote. If you actually read the legislation that's been passed, it's clearly not the case. And so I think this is an excuse to try to break the Senate. Hypocrisy is not unheard of in politics, but about half the current members of the Democratic Party, when Donald Trump was president and we were in the majority, believed that the legislative filibuster was the essence of the Senate. So I guess where you stand depends upon where you sit. And we anticipate, based on what the majority leader said, he's going to try to break the Senate, break the legislative filibuster, to make some kind of narrow exception. There is no such thing as a narrow exception. No such thing as a narrow exception. This, in my view, is genuine radicalism. And I might add, parenthetically, the executive calendar, a separate function of the Senate, was historically handled with a simple majority until the majority leader came to the Senate during Bush 43's tenure, after which he started routinely filibustering judges. Well, you've followed, we've gone back and forth about how to do the executive calendar. The executive calendar is now back to where it was 20 years ago. The legislative calendar is a totally different thing. So make no mistake about it, this is genuine radicalism. They want to turn the Senate into the House. They want to make it easy to fundamentally change the country. For example, admitting 2 new states, the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, to have 4 new Democratic senators, or to pack the Supreme Court. Fundamentally change the country. The filibuster has been a way to conduct American business in the political center. If you're a football fan, think of it as between the 40-yard lines. Unless either side gets a very large majority, it insists upon moderation and compromise. If you can't reach moderation and compromise on a particular issue, then it doesn't pass. That's been an important part of American history from the very beginning, and all of that's going to be on the line here, all of it, on the line here, apparently, in the next 2 weeks.
So McConnell says that it's already against the law to discriminate who gets to vote, so these voting rights bills are pretty much just worthless. Obviously, he's also not very happy that Schumer now wants to break the Senate by getting rid of the filibuster. Thankfully for McConnell, at least for now, Joe Manchin is also against getting rid of the filibuster. Yesterday, Manchin said that it would be a very heavy lift to change the filibuster through nuclear option.
Senator Schumer says they're going to bring a vote on rules changes to the Senate floor. Do you oppose changing the rules by the nuclear option?
Well, I've always been for rules being done the way we've always done, 2/3 of the members voting. And any way you can do a rules change to where everyone's involved, and basically that's a rule that usually will stay. That's what we should be pursuing. But, you know, we're still ongoing conversations as far as on voting, because I think the bedrock of democracy is making sure that you're able to cast a vote. If you're legal of age and a United States citizen, you should be able to cast a vote, and it should be counted accurately. Let me just say that to being open to a rules change that would create a nuclear option, it's very, very difficult. So it's a heavy lift. And the reason I say it's a heavy lift is that once you change a rule or you have a carve out, and I've always said this, anytime there's a carve out, you eat the whole turkey. There's nothing left because it comes back and forth. So you want things that will be sustainable. That's what you're looking for. So that common sense commonality, but if you know, I just believe that it's bedrock of democracy is voting, and we have to do what we can in order to preserve that. But let's just see. The conversations are still ongoing. I've been talking to everybody. We've been having good conversations since we left 2 weeks ago.
So Manchin said that he would be open to seeing all the options they have available, but he would also like to have at least some Republican support if they were to get rid of the filibuster. And again, if they did get rid of the filibuster, they have to keep in mind that once or if Republicans gain back control of the Senate, they too would be able to pass bills through with just a simple majority. If you enjoyed the content in today's video, make sure to give it a like and leave a relevant comment below. Thank you so much, and I truly hope you have a great rest of your day.